Op 22 december 2024 verschijnt historica Beatrice de Graaf in Buitenhof met de volgende essays. De kardinale deugden. Kijk, je kunt naar de geschiedenis kijken of naar politieke leiders kijken en dan kijken hoeveel effect zij hebben. Ze zijn heel tactisch en zo handig. Eigenlijk moet je kijken naar wat voor grondhouding heeft zo'n politieke leider of volksvertegenwoordiger nou eigenlijk. Wat voor deugden in de klassieke Aristoteliaanse zin ze eigenlijk verspreiden. Want dat is uiteindelijk het enige wat hoop op de toekomst geeft. Deugden. Ja, deugden. Niet echt een modewoord van 2025 of 2024. Het is ook 100 jaar geleden dat daarover geschreven werd. Maar ik denk wat wij denken dat mensen, dat meteen, deugd, dat wordt zo moralistisch. Maar eigenlijk, kijk, meer dan 2000 jaar lang was dat de enige manier om jonge mensen op te leiden, politici op te leiden. Dus dan niet alleen maar om mensen op te leiden, om heel slim te zijn, maar ook de definitie van een deugd van Aristoteles. Kijk, is dat je voldoende slimheid hebt om te handelen volgens een hoger doel. Dus niet alleen dat je mooie idealen hebt, maar ook dat je in je handelen dat doel kunt nastreven. De 4 deugden van Aristoteles zijn inderdaad beheersing, rechtvaardigheid, wijsheid, moed. En Plato had daar ook vroomheid bij bedacht. Vroomheid. Genoeg hebben met wat genoeg is. En dat betekent niet, ik weet niet zo zeker wat vroomheid weer betekent. En er komen daar nog eens 3 bij. Augustinus noemt die dan ook. Dat is hoop, geloof en liefde. En die tezamen zijn in de 6e eeuw na Christus de 7 kardinale deugden geworden. En dan denk je misschien aan kardinaal Monsieur uit de 3 Musketiers. Maar het is een kardinaal dat wijst op een cardio, op een scharnierpunt. Cardo. Niet cardio, maar cardo. Van het handelen. Het middelste van een wiel. Waaromheen de as waaromheen de deugd ruimte heeft om er te zijn. Van het handelen van mensen in publieke ruimtes. Dus ook dat je zo handelt. Dus als je zo handelt, dan komt het goed met de gemeenschap, met de samenbeleving, met de beschaving. Wat ooit begon met het genezen van gebroken botten. Wat leidde tot samenwerking in de jacht en het vuur en daarna het wiel, het brood, de gezelligheid in de grot met een puppyroedel van wolven en apporteren. Maar het kwam allemaal door beschaving op te richten. Het beeld in te richten naar de andere soortgenoot in zijn val. En die gebroken poot genezen met improvisatie, met hoop, geloof, liefde, vriendschap, voorzichtigheid, pure voorzichtigheid, rechtvaardigheid, vroomheid, wijsheid, moed, beheersing. Nog voordat de taal überhaupt bestond, waren deze dingen er al in de mens. Deugd was de oprichter van de basisbeginselen van de samenbeleving van onze aarde. Van beschaving, stadsleer, taal, economie, kunst, gezondheidszorg, academica, scholen, basisscholen, deugdzaamheid. Is Thierry Baudet nou echt zo deugdzamer dan Simone de Beauvoir? En toch krijgt Thierry binnen 3 dagen meer dan 6000 likes. Is Simone de Beauvoir maar een stuk of 15 in 2 of 3 jaar tijd door een kind voorgelezen. Is Geert Wilders nou echt zo deugdzaam? Of Boris Johnson? Of die snor van die voetbal die een kaars naar binnen werkt bij iemand? Of Elon Musk? Of een Jeff Bezos? Of een Trump? Of een Poetin? Of een Xi? Nee, deugdzame mensen zijn mensen zoals Macron of Trudeau of Timmermans of Geert Mak of Tom Blokdijk of Gerard Koolschijn, Ida Leonard Vijver, Mark Rutte, whatever. Dat zijn deugdzame mensen die volgens een voorzichtige rechtvaardige, vrome, wijze, moedige, beheerste, hoopvolle, geloofvolle, liefdevolle, improvisatie. En daarom is boeddhisme zo aantrekkelijk. Dat is puur de religie van deugdzaamheid. Om Ulysses de quote uit Troilus en Cressida, wat mij doet denken aan het boeddhisme. One touch of nature makes the whole world kin. En kin, niet je kin van je duivels sikkie. Maar kin betekent broederschap. Gemeenschap. Tribalism een beetje, maar nou ja. Dus de kardinale deugden, prudentia, lustia, fortitudo, temperamentia. Prudentia betekent voorzichtigheid, verstandigheid, wijsheid. Lustia, rechtvaardigheid, rechtschapenheid. Fortitudo, moed en sterkte. Door weer en wind. Temperamentia, gematigdheid, matigheid, zelfbeheersing. En deze deugden werden heel gewaardeerd door filosofen uit de oudheid. In het christendom zijn deze klassieke deugden opgenomen in de 7 deugden. De naam is afkomstig van het Latijnse woord cardo, scharnier, pin of hengsel waarop een deur rust. Het zijn de kern- of speeldeugden, de deugden waar het om draait. Extra belangrijk omdat zij in elke andere deugd verondersteld worden. Bijvoorbeeld wie op onvoorzichtige of onrechtvaardige wijze vriendelijk zou zijn, of wie geen maat weet te houden in zijn vriendelijkheid, of niet de moed heeft om ook vriendelijk te zijn als dat gevaar oplevert, die heeft niet echt de deugd van vriendelijkheid. De term kardinale deugden wordt voor het eerst door Ambrosius van Milaan in 400 voor Christus gebruikt. Het lijstje van de 4 vinden we bij Plato in zijn Politia of de Staat. Maar ze werden vooral uitgewerkt door Aristoteles in zijn Ethica Nicomachea. En overigens plaatst Aristoteles deze 4 niet apart als groep, maar behandelt hij ze te midden van andere deugden. Bij de Romeinen vinden we deze deugden onder andere beschreven bij Cicero in zijn Officius. En ook is Thomas van Aquino natuurlijk te noemen, want die heeft het allemaal opgenomen in een katholieke filosofie en moraalleer. Wij zijn de tijden. En dat maakt dus boeddhisten en taoïsten zo aantrekkelijk en geniaal en slim, omdat zij gewoon de samenbeleving dragen. En de Boeddha die raakte de grond aan, onder de boom. En zijn ego smolt weg en hij zag de demon van zijn eigen ego verschijnen en die verdween. Hij zei, de hele wereld is mijn getuige. En wij zijn de tijden, wij zijn de getuigen. Hoe hou je het hoofd boven water in tijden van crisis? Wat kunnen we leren van volkshistoricus Johan Huizinga, Beatrice de Graaf? En Huizinga maakte de Eerste Wereldoorlog mee. Het allerergste is dat de regels die vanaf de begin... Nee? Het allerergste is dat de regels die vanaf het begin de beschaving handhaafden, die regels in de middeleeuwen, die worden weliswaar met voeten getreden. Maar de regels zijn nog maar beringselen. Ze worden bij het grofvuil en het afval gezet. Het is zelfs zo ver gekomen dat het systeem van volkenrecht niet langer als beschaving wordt erkend. En dat wij terugzakken tot onder het niveau van de agrarische cultuur en terechtkomen in volstrekte gewelddadigheid en barbarij. Huizinga gaat nog een stap verder, dat als jij de deugden omdraait, dat je dan iets satanisch krijgt. The Ballet of Nations, geschreven in 1920, als middengedeelte van een trilogie. The Ballet of Nations. En de trilogie heette Satan, the Waster of Human Virtue. De verspiller van menselijke deugden. What is the sordid thing that enters hell? Not any of the sins. Rossetti, Gabriel Rossetti. No place, nowhere. Just a street widening to a square. Forms flanking pieces to a building on whose architrave is inscribed in immense letters, the world. A theatre of varieties. Lessee and manager Satan. The front of the theatre consists almost entirely of one colossal door, now closed, but which, being opened, allows the whole interior to be seen from the flights of steps leading up to it. To the right of the theatre, the house of self-interest, with the shiny door plate and knocker. To the left, a rag and bottle shop, half closed, belonging to Widow Fear. A few adjacent houses forming a flanking semicircle to the theatre, which large door plates inscribed truthfulness, justice, temperance, equanimity, etc., whose owners are seen yawning at the windows, and then crossing the square after looking on warily and disappearing by a side door into the theatre. What these sleepy virtues are languidly watching is a group of human passions, with hand barrows busily unloading their instruments and desk and carrying them up the steps to an unseen stage door in the rear of the theatre. Each of these passions, attired in appropriate allegoric garments, bears his or her name on a silver badge hung round the neck by a chain. Greed, loyalty, discipline, comradeship, jealousy, egotism, bullying, ennui is boredom, and others. Some very handsome and with family resemblance to the sleepy virtues, de slaperige deugden. Others hideous and sluttish, or with grotesque attempts to hide their ugliness and mean appearance, or monstrous affection of dignity. When all the instruments and desk have been carried into the theatre, a little body of these passions return and join in, carrying up the steps a carved hand railing or balustrade intended to separate the orchestra from the stalls, and bearing in ornamental letters the word patriotism, reserved for members of the orchestra. All of this is being done under impatient superintendence of Ballet Master Deaf, who fusses around and occasionally consults his watch. Ballet Master Deaf is seen at first only from the back, a long, lank figure in loose blank evening clothes, a long tailcoat with a long pianist head of hair around a bald, skinny shiny patch. There is something extraordinary, angular, and unaccountably uncanny in his figure and movements, but it is only when he turns full round that we become aware that he is a skeleton, and that the grey head of hair surmounts a grinning skull. Then we wonder that we did not notice that his hands and feet, both bare and protruding from over short sleeves and trousers, are skeletons also. A few neutral nations, wearing armlets inscribed neutrality, look shyly at these proceedings, pretending to examine the facades of the surrounding houses and the contents of their own pockets, afraid of getting mixed up in the performance, but enormously attracted by it. After this dumb show has gone on a little while, Ballet Master Deaf showing more and more impatience. A slight earthquake rocks the theatre and adjacent buildings, causing the various personas to stop short in whatever they are doing. And as it rumbles, its rumble subsides, the earth yawns at the foot of the theatre steps, and Satan arises majestically, helping the muse of history out of the depths and followed by the classic and unsubstantial callers of ages to come. The earth closes after them. The place which with the earthquake had become suddenly dark is lit by the sinister luminescence emanating from Satan's archangelic person, until the whole is suffused with a strange and ominous light, as if a fog in which near objects are oddly visible and others shade away into nothingness. The evil passions fall on their knees. The passions who are or are deemed respectable retire hurriedly. Ballet Master Death, for the first time, turning fully round and revealing his skeleton nature, bows very low, one hand on his white waistcoat, so not black. Satan, grasping him by the hand, "At last we meet again, dear Ballet Master Death. I need not introduce you to our old friend Cleo, muse of history by profession, but may I say it, by preference and through vocation, dramatic critic. She is a great lover of our joint shows and has graciously undertaken a full account of this, I trust our finest one." The muse, courtesying ceremoniously. "I have had the pleasure of meeting you once or twice or 3 times before, but one can't expect to so busy an artist as Ballet Master Death to bear in mind all his many admirers." Death gruffly. "No, that was indeed, he can't, ma'am. There is far too much to do in the world, and a fearful of arrears. Come, my lord Satan, time presses, and we shall never get our orchestra together. All these human passions have grown so lackadaisical of late." All right, all right, all right. Give me the list of the performance, or rather, I am sure the muse will kindly help us in our roll call. But are we the dancing nations? But are all the dancing nations in readiness? Oh, for ever so long! They are already behind the curtain, practicing their steps and settling their headpieces comfortably on their shoulders, which is never easy. They are all right. And so is the audience. The neutral nations have taken their seats. It's the orchestra that troubles me. It's the orchestra that troubles me. Looking rudely over the shoulder of the muse who is holding the list of her ceremoniously handed by Satan, and all these dabbing his skeleton fingers onto it. All these have still yet to come. Confound them for an idle, vaporing, bloodless, fiddle-faddling lot. Mankind has cuddled in its passions up of late years, or fed them on humanitarian water gruel, till you can't recognize the anemic wretches. Oh, that is so kindly easily mended. Once the performance is in full swing, dear Ballet Master Death, then it's brandy for heroes, eh? Come, I will help you call them. Knocks loudly and repeatedly on the door to the right. "Hello, you there? Are you deaf or asleep?" The muse, rising from a packing case onto which Satan had politely bid her to be seated, and where she has been cutting the list of performers and following Satan. "Forgive my indiscretion. I want my notes to be as full as possible, but who is it that you are calling, my lord Satan?" "Self-interest, a most industrious fellow, but unlikely not much addicted to such artistic pleasures as your shows. It is he whom on weekdays plays unremittingly the ground bass of life." Satan knocks still more loudly. "Hello, you there?" Self-interest is heard from within. "This is a half holiday. Call tomorrow. I am a trade unionist and I can't break the rules. I must have my sleep out. Let me see, what was I dreaming about? Yes, to be sure, drowsily. The coming reconstruction of society on a more rational ... Death, shaking his skeleton's fist at the house of self-interest. "Confound your insolence! Is this the way to answer Satan and Death?" But self-interest had always a dull dog, not a spark of divine fire to be struck out of him. Your lordship need not have wasted your time and mine in calling on such a gross modern materialist. Satan. May I point out that your skeletons are just a trifle testy? Don't you see, excellent but short-sighted ballet master Death, that knocking at self-interest's door has brought fear, that over-retiring slut, to her window? Hi, widow Fear, it is only a couple of old friends inviting you to a little entertainment. The muse, writing on her tablets while what she is describing is seen happening by the spectator. So Fear, squalid beyond all other passions, came down, hesitating just a little because she had heard self-interest refuse the invitation, but she was speedily dragged along by her shabby, restless twin, Suspicion and Panic, and the family carried penny whistles and fog horns and a crackled storm and massacre bell, genuine medieval but wrapped in yesterday's Daily Mail and Globe, the Washington Post, the Volkskrant, the Trouw. Satan to the muse, rather an unpresentable lot. Though first-rate performers, I hope we have something really handsome, a few genuine virtues to make up for them, since the nations have grown detestably superfine of late, and some of the other indispensable members of our orchestra aren't very attractive either. Ah, the very thing. Goes forward to meet two newcomers. I am enchanted that you deign to join our amateur band, small but very choice and famous under the name of Patriotism, my dear Lady Idealism, and my brilliant young Prince Adventure. He rustles his wings in ceremonious salutation to the newcomers. The muse writes after looking around. And idealism and adventure, bride and bridegroom, having come out of their palace of cloud and sunbeams and rainbows, went up from the theatre. Very magnificent they were, and of noblest bearing, and if a little overdressed. Idealism carried a silver trumpet, and adventure a woodland horn. Sin entered a new crew slink in. There came also Death's mother, or wife, for their family relations are primitive and best not inquired into. Sin, whom the all-knowing gods called disease, nor was there any need of calling her. With her came her well-known crew. Rapine, plunder, lust, murder and torture, fitted out with bull roarers and rattles and other cannibalistic instruments. Satan standing near the muse on the steps. Here comes hatred along with self-righteousness. Muse looks up and then writes, pretending to not be acquainted, but nevertheless hurrying together out of the taverns of vanity, and trundling between them a huge double bass and a small harmonium, on which, as soon as they had unpacked, self-righteousness most unblightingly offered to give hatred his right pitch. Hatred, the stupidest of all passions, yet the most cunning in deceits, brought with him a double bass of many strings, shrill and plaintive gut, rasping steel and growling bronze, and more besides, some strangely comforting in their tone, like a rich chorial, although they halted men to massacre each other. Death in a hurry. That'll do, pig. with little do to begin with. And there are a lot of the orchestra, both virtuous and vicious passions already within. Heroism will join as soon as we have begun, and he can be dumped anywhere. See, here troop the dancers for a few words of encouragement from your lordship. By the way, you mustn't mind if they address you as Lord of Hosts. They are rather ignorant of everything except my especial dances. Satan, oh, I have so many nom de guerre, my dear ballet master Deaf. Since some of you have instruments handy, just strike up a bit. You, widow fear, and you, madam idealism, and you, hatred, growl on a deep string, not too loud, just a bar or two, no matter what, only to make the nations look up and get over that tiresome maison hontée of theirs. The muse writing, the nations had meanwhile arrived by twos and twos on the top step of the theatre, each brilliant and tidy in his ballet dress, which was very better cut, and the handsomer stuff, of course, than its everyday cloth, or rage rags. The nations had meanwhile arrived by twos and twos on the step of the theatre, each brilliant and tidy in its ballet dress, which was far better cut and of handsomer stuff, of course, than its everyday broadcloth or rags. And idealism and adventure, hatred, self-righteousness, and all fell to tuning, for unlike some other members of the orchestra, they were sticklers for correctness. Enter science and organization. The muse, not writing but speaking as he looks around. Whom have we here? I have never seen either of these two before in all centuries of my regular attendance of deaf ballet. All other human passions are correctly dressed in allegoric fashion, classical or medieval or biblical, but one of these two newcomers might, for all I see, be a clerk in a public office. And as to the lady, if one may call her such, she seems to be wearing a laboratory smock, let alone spectacles, uncompromisingly literal and modern. Deaf jumping down 3 steps with a clatter and flying at the newcomers. Get out of here! Kick them out! Kick out the newfangled intruders who want to spoil fun! Knock them down! Trample on them! Don't you see they are aliens? Spies? Spies in the service of life and progress. Satan, with an arch angelic gesture which paralyzes the uplifted skeleton arm of death. Hush, hush! Which is master here, I wonder? Will you never learn manners, you senseless old relic of the Stone Age? You with your rebel of instrument fit for the ethnological museum? Turns to the newcomers. Excuse his country manners, dear Madam Science and dear Counselor Organization. You know the ways of skeletons, their skulls are inevitably empty. The muse writing. The two newcomers carried newfangled instruments and fell to unpacking them. Science a handsy gramophone and Organization a miniature pianola with its various rollers. Science, do not mention it, my lord. Que c'est comprendre. Que c'est comprendre. Comprendre. C'est tout pardonner. Que c'est comprendre. C'est tout pardonner. So it is part of my professional duty to find excuses for your ballet master's very interesting primitiveness. Organization. It's all as it should be, and of course there is no denying that Science and I are permanently on the staff of Life and Progress, but that firm is working slack at present, so we feel at liberty to take a brief temporary engagement elsewhere. The muse writing, Satan extended both hands in welcome, and Science snatched the opportunity hurriedly, verifying whether or not they were furnished out with claws. Satan, low to science and organization. Nothing could be more conducive to the success of our ballet, and I only hope our collaboration may grow permanent. You see, Dev is getting a bit old for his job and dreadfully prejudiced. Besides, I fear I can't be denied that both of you have done one or two things calculated to rub him the wrong way, and then everything is so dreadfully exaggerated by the daily press. Come here, you peppery old ballet master, and salute the lady and gentleman prettily. Prettily. Places one hand above Dev's hands and playfully twitches his arms and legs like a marionette on a string, for the amusement of science and organization. That's right. Now shake hands with the illustrious couple who will keep up our ballet with their wonderful mechanical instruments when the rest of a classic band have neither strings nor wind left. And now you had better so far unbend as to tell me how you intend the members of your orchestra to sit once we are all in the theatre. And also give a very last instructions to all our excellent and obliging performers. Is all the orchestra here? Let me see the list of them. Dear Cleo, this is work for you, like Homer's catalogue of ships. Please read out the list of the passions constituting the famous orchestra called patriotism. The muse reading the list. As he calls each name, its owner makes obedience to Satan. Greed, here my lord. Loyalty, here my lord. Chivalry, present. Comradeship, aye my lord. Reverence, here. Discipline, present. Routine, yes, sorry, yes, here. Envy, get your heart out of it. Envy, egotism, prejudice, here my lord, pregnancy, and bullying. Deaf, those are already in the theatre with their instruments. The muse, justice, here she comes, august, stern, daughters of the gods, and, I may add, most successfully got up like her own statue, the one of blood-coloured Pori on that pillar in Florence. Exactly, says Satan, her falchion drawn ready to decapitate someone she cannot see, and that neat bandage on her eyes making her unaware of what it is she weighs out in her scales with such unerring muscular precision. I have a genuine regard for justice, Cleo. The muse, idealism and adventure, Satan. They will sit with some of those already inside. Loyalty plays first fiddle to discipline second. Reverence is the alto and routine the bass of that quartet. Envy is, of course, waiting for adventure. The muse, self-righteousness, Satan, on the same side as justice, idealism, chivalry, comradeship, prejudice and pugnacity, but see that self-righteousness be on no account separated from hatred, whom she has to keep up to his pitch. Egotism, bullying, jealousy and cruelty will sit next to him. Science and organization must be given distinguished seats a little apart. Statecraft, that is our deaf prompter, he is in a little box. Widow fear with superstition and panic, sin with rapine and plunder, murder, lust and torture. In the corner, well to themselves, they are never very presentable and soon will be drunk. Many thanks, Cleo. Deaf fuzzes for a moment in and out, hurrying the performers into their places. Cleo snatches the opportunity of coming close to Satan and saying it in a concussionally imploring whisper, Dearest Lord Satan, in recognition of our ancient friendship and of the tiny share of collaboration with which you honor me, forgive me if I venture to implore you on my own behalf and that of my friends, the so appreciative ages to come. Any request of yours is granted beforehand, Cleo, except the one you are about to make. You want me to abolish the regulation, all this time and change, by which none but the dancing nations and myself can hear the music of the orchestra of passions. Is that it? It is indeed. And dearest Lord Satan, forgive my importunity if I venture to say that ever since always it has been so frightfully tantalizing to look on at the dancing without hearing a sound. I have allowed you to hear heroism's triumphant voice. Let that be sufficient. His music is worth hearing. Don't think me ungrateful or unappreciative. Of course, heroism singing is quite exceptionally good, but it's always the same, connu archi connu, as the critics say. Besides, it isn't he who really makes the music, which is being danced to, and it is very hard upon the muse of history to have to provide little musical motifs, as always elevating, of course, but rather tame and palm them off as the real thing to the ages to come. The presence of science and organization led me to hope that some modern contrivance might at last. No, Cleo, and you may thank your stars this law of mind and matter admits of no inflectation. Believe me, could history know the true strains which set and keep the nations dancing, the folly and the frenzy which they move those limbs, there would be soon be an end to your well-deserved popularity. Besides, if more than the faintest echo of my band's playing reached any ears than those of Satan and his poor crazed dancers, it is upon the cards that is grotesque, alluringly, heart-rendering horror might dislean posterity for all such entertainments. So let us drop the subject, my dear good muse. Now, Ballet Master Deaf, have you any last instructions? Deaf, bowing obsequiously to Satan. Just one or two, my lord. Turns to the performers. Ladies and gentlemen, valiant nations of my corps du ballet, and ever responsive passions of the orchestra, so justly admired under the name of patriotism, let me remind you that, for the satisfaction of our stage lessee, my lord Satan, and the admiration, I trust, of our enlightened patrons, the muse of history and the ages to come, you are about to take part in the fastest and most new-fashioned spectacle of slaughter and ruin I have so far had the honor of putting on the world stage, although I hope that its attractions may cause it to become only the first and only the least considerable of a long and incessant series of similar glorious exhibitions of what mankind can do under my guidance. As regards instructions, you really require none. The nations have of late years consecrated all their educational resources on this sole object, and the human passions, however self-engrossed and often at loggerheads, are always eager to accept the unique opportunity for untrampled manifestations of their violence which is afforded by the symphonies of patriotism. Once fairly started, the dancing nations can all be trusted to obey the baton of Ballet Master Deaf, and as to the details, the more each one departs from the regulation steps, the more intelligently will the dancers of the opposite side respond to his improvisations. My ballet belong essentially to the category of the art called imitative. As to the music, I need scarcely impress upon each of the passions to keep strictly to his or her own part, and never be put out of the dissonance and conflicting rhythms produced by the contradictory parts of his fellow performers. Such incoherence conduces to the volume of and impressiveness of the patriotic whole, and is rendered acceptable to the most fascist ear by the perfection of the national unison of the constant recurrence of some favorite sentimental theme. The ground plan of our ballet is so simple that no rehearsals have been necessary, and its variety arises out of the ever-increasing number and incompatibility of the allied dancers and their characteristic manners. In obedience to the high ethical taste of modern times, see, the main motive of our performance is that of each disinterested and indignant nation seeking only to repel the aggression of its vis-à-vis and to uphold the eternal rules of justice and humanity. There are subsidiary teams of outstanding dancers flying to the rescue of the presumable victors, not without some delicate hesitation as to which to join, likewise of main groups overcoming the coyness of unwilling dancers and inveighing them into their terrific mazes. And to the performance proceeds, and as such the performance proceeds, there may be some graceful furtive attempts at pas de deux between dancers of opposite sides, and some very entertaining figures of the sort of dancing masters call chassé-croisant. Chassé-croisé. One last recommendation, but all important, let me remind the passions about to take their seats in the orchestra of patriotism that the duration of our performance depends entirely on their activity. Not all the training of the best trained nations, not all the goodwill of poor ballet master Deaf, nay, not the sovereign command of Satan in person could keep our ballet in going if the music of the passions were to stop. The members of the orchestra of patriotism are therefore urgently requested to replenish their energies by unstinting use of the appropriate refreshments, carefully warmed up commonplaces and fairy drams of eloquence, which will be handed round unceasingly by Lord Satan's lackeys of the press and pulpit. And now, we may all take our appointed places in the theatre of the world. The passions, grasping or tunneling their instruments, go up the theatre steps and enter it by a small side door marked to the orchestra. The dancing nations ascend the same steps but remain standing on the topmost deployed, waiting for orders. Ballet Master Deaf collects his notes, and his baton is going to follow them when he is stopped by Satan. Good gracious, says Satan. We seem all to have forgotten heroism. He isn't ever even on the list. Shall we ask the muse to rout him out? He is accustomed to her. Heroism? Oh, I always leave him to himself, says Deaf. Heroism? Oh, I always leave him to himself. He comes as soon as he hears the music, and he can always be squeezed in anywhere. That's the advantage of him being blind. It makes him the most obliging and least troublesome of all my orchestra. Quite a different pair of boots from stuck-up creatures like idealism and chivalry and so forth, who are afraid of rubbing shoulders with the lower passions. Heroism, bless him, won't mind sitting cheek by jowl, even with fear, that filthy slut, or surrounded by the cannibal root of sin. But here he comes, the muse writing. At that moment, there entered heroism, with limbs like a giant's, blushes like a girl, and eyes like a merry child's, but which saw not. Welcome, heroism, our prince of tenors. Goes out to meet heroism and offers to lead him, but heroism waves him off. Satan pretends not to notice the snub, and with sham cordiality. We were just saying, my accomplished young friend, that you are the most modest and reliable of all our orchestra, ready for everything. Why, I remember my French Revolution ballet, when heroism and panic play not only a duet, but at the same instruments, full hands. The muse, not writing but joining enthusiastically in the conversation. What a ballet that was! ballet master Death, masterpiece, and yours, my lord Satan, certainly. The splendid tragic irony of the Marais Robespierre guillotining theme combined with that of the Valmy and Liberty. Yes, dear muse of history, I don't deny that was our greatest hit in modern times, but with goodwill, this new dance of our ballet master Death shall be as full of all manner of terror and irony, and of far vaster dimensions, the whole stage of Europe, not one paltry corner only. Death, affectionately to heroism. Come here, boy. You've always been dutiful and loving to poor old Daddy Death, and carved more for him than for any other to the immortals. The muse writing. So saying, the skeleton scarecrow tapped the budding cheeks of heroism, that star-like youth with eyes with which laughed, but saw not. For even as his cousin Love, he is blind ever since the cradle. And heroism, at the sounds of Death's well-known voice, kissed his bony fingers with rapture, and grasping the drum with he accompanies himself, modestly took his stand between fear and hatred, unconscious of their foulness. A bell rings from inside the theatre. Death takes the arm of heroism, who thrills and blushes with joy at the honor, and turning to Satan. Death. It would be well, my lord, if you would say a few words of encouragement to my corps du ballet. Satan nods gravely. I will. He solemnly takes up his position opposite of the deployed dancing nations. He folds his great bodiless wings about him so as to form a dalmatic of black radiance, and stands a second or two in majestic and awful silence. On his right is Death, leaning on the arm of heroism with wide blind eyes. On his left the muse, the ages to come, kneel in a circle all round. Dearly beloved nations, called therefore brethren in Christ, and henceforth to become true brethren in Satan, receive my blessings which speed you to destruction. Let the light of judgment and the choice be blotted from your minds, and let your clean flirtation be submerged and rotted away by the hot and turbid lust of possessions and cruelty welling up from the dark unconscious of your soul. Ye are going forth, O nations, to join death dance, even as candid, high-hearted virgins who have been decoyed by fair show into the house of prostitution, where sins they never dreamed of become their daily trade, and whence they dread release because they have kept company with perjurers and cut throats and become estranged from the honesty of common life. For however pure you enter into it, their dance of ballet master Death brings you to condemnation and barrenness. Moreover, with your dancing I will interrupt the great eternal fruitful give and take of life. I will hold up the enriching commerce of different spiritual climates, and the regions of the earth shall cease to be each other's completion. I will forbid the bands of marriage of true minds, and make those born to love one another despise and abhor. Goodness shall cease to call across the earth to goodness, neither shall wisdom stretch helping hands to wisdom, and the sweet affinities of common humanity shall attract no longer. But I will knit together the good which is in every people with its own folly and wickedness, till these grow together as one flesh and one soul. In the fear and hatred which they share, the lucid eye of the spirit shall be bloodshot and blinded. The hand, once cunning to give shape and usefulness, shall, like the hands of the epileptic, be strong only to strike, wounding itself and others. The mouth, whereby men understood each other's truth and goodness, shall foam out only lies and boast and insults.
and the heart shall go out no longer to other hearts, but only melt in self-pity and blaze in vindictiveness. And none of you, O nations, shall know your degradation. The blood of martyrs shall bring forth new executioners, and out of the tears of bereaved women shall arise the slaughter of other sons and other husbands. And every rarest and most needed virtue shall be wasted as a burnt offering upon my altars. The blessing of Satan's attend you, who go forth in purity and strength to return in pollution and enfeeblement. Evil will be the fruition of your goodness, and chaos the reward of your discipline. Satan raises his hand in benignation. The nation salutes, which their banners and cry, Arise, O Lord of hosts. End of Act 1.